The town of Whispering Pines was a place forgotten by time. It was as if the world had moved on, leaving this small, secluded town behind, trapped in a perpetual state of stillness. Nestled deep within a valley, it was shrouded by an ancient forest. The trees, tall and imposing, formed a natural barrier, keeping the outside world at bay and preserving the town's eerie serenity. The scent of pine needles hung heavy in the air, a constant reminder of the town's isolation. It was a scent that seemed to seep into everything, from the wooden beams of the old houses to the very clothes of the townsfolk. The sun, when it managed to pierce the thick canopy, cast long, eerie shadows. These shadows danced and flickered, creating an ever-changing tapestry of light and dark that added to the town's mysterious aura. These danced across the crumbling facades of buildings, whispering tales of a bygone era. The buildings, with their weathered exteriors and broken windows, stood as silent witnesses to the passage of time. Life in Whispering Pines moved at a glacial pace. The hustle and bustle of modern life were foreign concepts here, replaced by a slow, deliberate rhythm that matched the town's timeless nature. Days turned into weeks, each indistinguishable from the last. The passage of time was marked not by the ticking of clocks, but by the subtle changes in the forest and the shifting patterns of the shadows. The townsfolk, hardened by years of solitude and whispered rumors, kept to themselves. They moved through their days with a quiet determination, their lives intertwined with the secrets and stories of Whispering Pines. They bore the weight of generations past, their eyes reflecting a shared history etched with secrets. Each glance, each whispered word, hinted at the untold stories that lay just beneath the surface. The silence of the town was broken only by the sighing wind, a mournful sound that seemed to carry the echoes of forgotten tragedies. It was a sound that spoke of loss and longing, a constant reminder of the town's haunted past. Whispering Pines was a town steeped in an unsettling tranquility. It was a place where the stillness was almost palpable, where every creak and rustle seemed amplified in the quiet. It was the kind of place where shadows lingered a little too long, where the darkness seemed to have a life of its own, creeping into every corner and crevice, where the wind seemed to whisper your name. It was as if the very air was alive with the voices of the past, calling out to those who dared to listen. And at the edge of town, overlooking the quiet streets from atop a windswept hill, stood Blackwood Manor. It was a grand, imposing structure, its dark silhouette a stark contrast to the surrounding forest. It was a testament to the town's troubled past, and a dark mirror reflecting its uncertain future. The manor, with its boarded-up windows and overgrown gardens, stood as a reminder of the town's glory days and the secrets that still lingered within its walls. The town's name, Whispering Pines, was more than just a moniker. It was a promise, a warning, and a mystery all rolled into one. The name itself seemed to hold a power, a magic that kept the town shrouded in its own unique blend of beauty and melancholy. Despite its eerie atmosphere, life continued in Whispering Pines. Children played in the distance, their laughter a rare but welcome sound. The townsfolk went about their daily routines, their lives a testament to resilience and quiet strength. The old clock tower in the town square stood as a silent guardian, its hands moving ever so slowly, marking the passage of time in a place where time seemed to stand still. It was a symbol of the town's enduring spirit, a reminder that even in the face of isolation and mystery, life goes on. As the sun set over Whispering Pines, the shadows lengthened, and the town was once again enveloped in its familiar cloak of darkness. It was a place where the past and present coexisted, where every whisper of the wind and every rustle of the leaves told a story waiting to be discovered. Blackwood Manor was more than just an abandoned house. It was a specter, a looming presence that cast a long shadow over Whispering Pines. The once grand Victorian mansion now stood in a state of disrepair. Its windows were like vacant eyes, staring out blankly at the town below. The paint peeled from its walls like scabs, revealing the rotting wood beneath. The history of Blackwood Manor was a tapestry woven with tragedy and despair. Locals whispered tales of a family torn apart by greed and madness. They spoke of unspeakable acts committed within the mansion's walls, acts that stained the very foundation. Over the years, the stories had morphed into legends. Each telling added a new layer of horror, making it impossible to separate fact from fiction. Some whispered of the heartbroken patriarch who, driven to madness by grief, took his own life within the manor. Others spoke of a fire, its flames consuming the lives of innocent souls trapped within. But all the stories agreed on one thing: Blackwood Manor was haunted. It was a place where the veil between the living and the dead was thin, a place where tormented souls roamed free.
"I dare you," Jake said, his voice a low murmur that cut through the stillness of the night. His eyes gleamed with a mischievous light, daring anyone to back down. "I dare you to spend the night in Blackwood Manor," he repeated, his tone more insistent, as if the very words held a power of their own.
A nervous laugh escaped Emily, but her eyes betrayed her bravado. She glanced around at her friends, seeking some form of reassurance, but found only expectant faces.
The group of teenagers had gathered at their usual spot, the old gnarled oak tree at the edge of town. It was their sanctuary, a place where they could escape the mundane routines of their lives. They were a motley crew, drawn together by boredom and a shared thirst for adventure. Each one brought something unique to the group, creating a dynamic that was both unpredictable and exhilarating. There was Jake, the self-proclaimed leader, always pushing the boundaries. His daring nature often led them into situations that were both thrilling and dangerous. Emily, the skeptic, masked her fear with a sharp wit. She was the one who questioned everything, yet found herself drawn to the thrill of the unknown. Ben, the quiet observer, often stayed in the background, his thoughtful nature making him the group's silent anchor. And finally, there was Sarah, the voice of reason, who tried to keep them grounded. They were the epitome of youthful curiosity, invincible in their naivete. The world was their playground, and they were determined to explore every corner of it, no matter the risks. Tonight, the air crackled with a different kind of energy. It was a mix of excitement and fear, a heady combination that made their hearts race. It was Halloween, the one night of the year when the barrier between the real and the supernatural seemed to thin, the perfect night for a dare that would test their courage. The teenagers, fueled by adrenaline and the thrill of the unknown, dared to speak the name that sent shivers down the spines of even the bravest souls in Whispering Pines. S3, are you crazy? Emily's voice wavered slightly, betraying her inner turmoil. Everyone knows that place is haunted. The stories of Blackwood Manor were legendary, filled with tales of ghostly apparitions and unexplained phenomena.
Sarah, ever the voice of reason, tried to steer the group away from the reckless dare. "We don't have to do this," she said, her voice calm but firm. "There are other ways to prove our bravery." But her words were drowned out by a chorus of excited whispers and nervous laughter. The thrill of the challenge was too enticing to resist.
The challenge hung in the air, heavy with unspoken fear. The die was cast. There was no turning back now. Their fate, it seemed, was sealed. As they made their way towards Blackwood Manor, the weight of their decision settled over them like a shroud. The night was just beginning, and the true test of their courage was yet to come. As twilight surrendered to the inky blackness of night, the group approached Blackwood Manor. Their footsteps echoed in the eerie silence, each crunch of gravel on the path a stark reminder of their isolation. The old iron gate groaned as they pushed it open, as if warning them to turn back. A cold wind swept through the overgrown gardens, carrying with it the scent of decay. Stepping across the threshold was like stepping into another world. The air inside was heavy and stagnant, thick with the dust of ages. Cobwebs draped the once grand foyer like macabre decorations, and the only light came from the sliver of a moon that sliced through a crack in the boarded-up windows. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle of wind through the broken panes, sent shivers down their spines. They moved through the house like trespassers in a sacred tomb. Each room they explored seemed to hold the remnants of forgotten lives. A child's doll lying abandoned on a rotting armchair, a half-finished letter on a dusty writing desk, a faded family portrait on the wall, its subject's eyes seeming to follow their every move. As the hours ticked by, the silence of the manor became almost unbearable. It was a living, breathing silence that pressed in on them, amplifying every creak and groan of the old house. They were intruders in a place where time stood still, and the spirits of the past refused to rest. The deeper they ventured, the more palpable the sense of dread became. It was as if the house itself was alive, watching their every move, waiting for the right moment to reveal its secrets. In the dim light, they could barely make out the details of the rooms they entered. The flickering candlelight cast eerie shadows on the walls, making it seem as though the house was filled with ghostly apparitions. The air was thick with the scent of mildew and decay, and every breath they took felt like inhaling the past. They found themselves drawn to the grand staircase, its once majestic banister now covered in a thick layer of dust. As they ascended, the steps creaked ominously beneath their weight, each one a reminder of the house's age and the countless souls who had walked these halls before them. At the top of the stairs, they discovered a long, narrow hallway lined with closed doors. Each door seemed to hold a story, a glimpse into the lives of those who had once called this place home. They hesitated, unsure of which door to open first, the weight of their curiosity battling with their fear. Finally, they chose a door at random and slowly pushed it open. The room beyond was a bedroom, its furnishings covered in white sheets that had long since turned yellow with age. A large ornate bed dominated the room, its once luxurious linens now tattered and moth-eaten. As they stepped inside, they noticed a small wooden music box sitting on the bedside table. One of them reached out and gently opened it, and a haunting melody filled the room. The sound was both beautiful and eerie, a reminder of a time long past. They stood in silence, listening to the music, each lost in their own thoughts. The melody seemed to weave a spell around them, drawing them deeper into the house's dark history. As the last notes of the music box faded away, they knew they had to continue their exploration. There was something about Blackwood Manor that compelled them to keep going, to uncover its secrets and understand the stories of those who had lived and died within its walls. They moved from room to room, each one revealing new clues and adding to the sense of mystery that surrounded the house. The night wore on, and the sense of unease grew stronger. They could feel the weight of the house's history pressing down on them, a constant reminder that they were not alone. The spirits of Blackwood Manor were watching, waiting, and perhaps even guiding them. As they delved deeper into the darkness, they couldn't shake the feeling that they were being drawn into a story that had yet to reach its conclusion. And in the echoes of the darkness, they knew that the past was not as distant as it seemed.